Lightning splits the night sky, thunder rolls across a cracked savanna, and a whirlwind lifts the dust of centuries. Beneath the surface, rivers murmur ancient secrets, and the earth itself shivers, alive with unseen power. These are not just natural events. They are signs, echoes, warnings. For in Africa, vast, old, and filled with spirit, the elements were never just weather. They were alive. They had names. They had will. They had gods. What if the storm above you wasn't random, but rage? What if the drought wasn't bad luck, but divine silence? What if the wind whispered not just through trees, but through time, carrying the voice of an ancient goddess? And the ocean, what if its waves pulled not just tides, but souls? Across the continent, long before borders and flags, people understood something we've almost forgotten. That nature watches, that nature remembers, and that when balance is broken, nature responds. Not blindly, but intentionally. In African cosmology, the elements were never separated from the sacred. Fire was not just heat. It was cleansing, judgment, life reborn through flame. Earth wasn't just soil. It was the womb of ancestors, the ground that held memory, fertility, and finality. Wind was not just movement. It was breath, spirit, transformation, death, and renewal. And water. Water was never just water. It was desire, healing, wealth, seduction, danger, and grace. Each of these forces had a keeper, a voice, a will. Gods and goddesses who did not simply reside in the heavens, but moved through the natural world itself. They were not distant, they were present. In the rain, in the quake, in the breeze brushing your skin, the divine was always near. These elemental deities were not just symbols. They were power made personal. Fire with eyes, water with memory, earth with purpose, wind with wrath. And across tribes and nations, people told their stories, not just to remember them, but to survive them. Because when these gods are forgotten, the elements grow wild. And when they are honored, balance returns. Today, we summon 4 elemental deities of Africa, masters of earth, fire, wind, and water. Their names are ancient, their power is eternal, and their stories are far from over. In the spiritual universe of the Chiwa people of Malawi, Zambia, and Mozambique, fire is not merely a destructive force, it is a divine language. At the heart of this flame stands Mphambe, the god of lightning and fire. He is a presence both feared and revered, the embodiment of searing justice and sacred rebirth. Mphambe does not whisper. He does not tap politely. He cracks the sky open, floods the night with light, and speaks through the thunder that shakes the bones of the living. When he comes, it is not by accident. His fire burns with intention. His lightning strikes with precision. Mphambe's domain is not just the fire you see dancing in hearths or wildfires racing through fields. He is the spirit inside the flame, the will that decides whether fire purifies or punishes. His lightning is not weather, it is judgment hurled from the heavens. The Chiwa believe that when justice is delayed, when lies fester, or when communities stray from ancestral codes, Mphambe reveals his presence in storms. His bolts are not blind. They target the corrupt, the unjust, the ones who think they can hide behind man's laws. Fire, in his hands, becomes a cleansing force, reducing lies to ash, and from that ash, allowing new truth to grow. Mphambe is not chaos. He is order through intensity. He brings balance by consuming imbalance. His power is as much about endings as it is about beginnings, because where fire destroys, it also clears the way. New soil emerges from the burned earth. New life rises from scorched roots. In this way, Mphambe is also a god of rebirth. His destruction is never empty. It makes room for growth, for transformation. His is the sacred violence that precedes healing. In Chiwa cosmology, rituals invoking Mphambe are never casual. They involve drumming that mimics thunder, chants that roll like storm clouds, and offerings burned in sacred flames. Elders gather in circular formations, facing the direction of an approaching storm, calling to Mphambe with humility and precision. These are not prayers of request, they are declarations of readiness. Readiness to be cleansed, readiness to be judged. In some rituals, the community will set controlled fires to purify spaces believed to be spiritually contaminated. It is not the fire itself that holds the power. It is Mphambe within the flame, watching, waiting, deciding what remains and what must be turned to smoke. One of the most haunting stories told among Chiwa elders speaks of a chief who grew greedy, hoarding food during a famine. He ignored the cries of his people, building high walls around his storehouse, while children starved outside. On the third night of thunder without rain, the sky split open. A bolt struck his compound directly. The fire consumed everything. Fire god. The geography of the region itself echoes his presence. Volcanic soil, blackened but fertile, is seen as a gift from Mphambe, a sign that fire has visited the land and left behind potential. Even the thunderstorms that rumble across Lake Malawi are said to carry his footsteps. Children are taught not to fear lightning, but to respect it. It is not random. It is sacred. It watches. In modern times, Mphambe's presence is still felt. During political unrest or moments of social corruption, it's not uncommon for thunderous weather to be interpreted as a warning. In homes and villages, candles are lit in silence, not for light, but for reverence. Fires are built not just for warmth, but for remembrance. Mphambe remains a god who walks through firelight, speaks through crackling branches, and reveals truth in the moments when all else turns to smoke. To call upon Mphambe is to ask for exposure, for clarity, for everything hidden to be brought to flame. It is a terrifying request, but also a necessary one, because sometimes the only way to heal is to burn. Sometimes the only way to move forward is to let the fire speak. Mphambe is not just a god of fire. He is fire, with thought, with memory, with judgment. He burns not to destroy, but to renew, to remind us that truth cannot be buried, that justice will not be silenced, and that, from even the fiercest blaze, something stronger, purer, and more sacred can rise. In the heart of the land, where seeds find their future and ancestors rest beneath the soil, the Gurunsi people of Burkina Faso and Ghana honor a force as ancient and enduring as time itself. Her name is Naiyiri, goddess of the earth, womb of the world, foundation of life and death alike. To speak of Naiyiri is to speak of the ground we stand on, the crops that feed us, and the sacred places we return to when our bodies can no longer walk. She is not a deity of storms or spectacle. Her power is slow, deep, and constant, the kind that holds the world steady when all else shifts. Naiyiri is fertility in every sense of the word. She is the pulse of the land after the first rains, the rhythm of roots stretching deep into the darkness, and the green swell of crops rising under a generous sun. Farmers across Gurunsi villages do not begin planting without first offering to her, whether in the form of spilled millet, buried coins, or whispered prayers pressed into the earth by calloused hands. The land is not just dirt, it is her body. To dig without permission is to wound her. To plant without reverence is to risk her silence. And when Naiyiri is silent, nothing grows. Sacred groves scattered across Gurunsi territory are more than clusters of trees. They are living temples. These groves are her breath, her gaze, her hidden sanctuaries. They are protected spaces where women come to speak with her, dance barefoot in her soil, and bury the secrets they cannot tell anyone else. Naiyiri listens, not with ears, but with roots. And when she answers, it is in the form of a bountiful harvest, a healthy child, or the sudden return of long-lost peace. Her voice is in the fruit that does not rot, the clay that never cracks, the well that never runs dry. But Naiyiri is not just the giver of life, she is the guardian of death. Burial grounds in Gurunsi tradition are places of power, not fear. They are where the physical body returns to its source, and the spirit passes through her realm. The dead are laid to rest with offerings to Naiyiri, asking her to hold them gently, to fold them back into the land with grace. The soil is not a final resting place, it is a sacred transformation. Bones return to dust, dust becomes soil, soil grows trees, and the cycle continues, each part of it touched by her hand. In this deeply matrilineal spirituality, Naiyiri's presence is especially revered by women. She is not just a goddess, she is a mother, a sister, a midwife, a mourner. Women hold the rites that connect to her most intimately. During fertility ceremonies, groups of women will gather to sing, grind millet, and smear their arms with red clay taken from sacred spots. They dance in circles, mirroring the cycles of the moon and the cycle. Offerings to Naiyiri are never loud or dramatic. A gourd of water left at the base of a tree, a handmade bowl filled with earth and prayers, a quiet song hummed while weeding the fields. These are the gestures that matter. For Naiyiri does not demand sacrifice, she demands awareness, respect, balance. To live in harmony with her is to understand that everything we take must one day be returned, that the ground beneath our feet is not an object, but an ancestor. During times of drought or land conflict, her name is invoked in ceremonies led by elder women, often around stone altars or at the entrance of her groves. Drummers may play low rhythms that mimic the heartbeat of the earth itself, while women speak words passed down for generations, not in shouts, but in firm, grounded chants. Naiyiri, keeper of our bones, remember us. And always, always offerings are buried, never burned or thrown. Because to offer to Naiyiri is to return something to its source. Even today, as land is carved by borders and sold like property, many among the Gurunsi still believe Naiyiri watches, that the land remembers who honors it and who defiles it. And in the quiet aftermath of a failed harvest or a landslide, the elders do not first call scientists or politicians. They gather at her grove and ask what has been forgotten. What vow has been broken? What balance must be restored? Naiyiri teaches that strength lies in stillness, that creation comes from care, and that the deepest power often moves beneath the surface. She is the foundation upon which everything rests, from homes to hopes, from crops to cultures. And long after storms have passed and flames have cooled, it is her soil that holds the memory, that remembers the first seed, the final breath, and everything in between. When the skies turn gray and the wind begins to spiral, when doors slam on their own and the air smells of rain and iron, the Yoruba know that Oya is near. She is not a breeze, she is not a whisper. Oya is the storm itself, wild, fierce, and purposeful. She is the goddess of wind and change, of revolution and truth. She does not stroll quietly into your life. She arrives in a gale, in upheaval, in the sudden moment when everything false collapses and something new begins. Oya does not ask if you are ready. She comes when the time has come. Oya governs the winds that twist through cities and forests, but her power goes deeper than meteorology. Her wind is breath, the sacred breath of the universe. In Yoruba belief, breath is life itself, and when Oya breathes, things are born and things die. Her storms are not chaotic destruction. They are necessary disruptions. She tears down lies, shatters illusions, and scatters the stagnant so something more honest can take root. Where Oya moves, nothing remains the same. But in her wake, there is always the potential for rebirth. She clears paths no one else dares to tread. She is the wind that uproots and then whispers to seeds buried below. As goddess of storms and transformation, Oya is intimately connected to death, not as a grim end, but as a transition. She guards the cemetery gates, the threshold between the world of the living and the ancestral realm. Souls pass through her domain to reach the ancestors, and she ensures that none are forgotten or misplaced. The Yoruba do not fear death as annihilation. They see it as continuation, and Oya is the wind that carries the soul through. Her presence at funerals is sacred. Her name is invoked not to mourn, but to guide. Because with Oya, every ending is a beginning in disguise. This duality, feared and revered, destroyer and creator, makes Oya one of the most complex and beloved deities in Yoruba cosmology. She is worshipped with fire-colored cloth, swirling dances, and rhythms that echo her storm. Her ceremonies are not quiet affairs. They are movements of energy, sweat, and possession. When Oya is called, her devotees twirl and spin, mimicking tornadoes, arms flung wide as if to catch the wind itself. Drums beat like thunder, voices rise like the wind through trees, and when Oya arrives, it is not in calm, it is in motion. Bodies shiver, flames flicker, truths emerge. To follow Oya is to accept change as divine, to embrace discomfort as growth. She teaches that stagnation is a slow death, and that sometimes, to move forward, everything must first be shaken. She brings clarity through chaos, justice through disruption. Her worshippers do not beg her for peace. They ask for transformation, for the courage to face what must be ended and the strength to survive what must be born. She is the goddess of necessary endings and fearless beginnings. Her influence extends far beyond Yoruba lands. In Afro-diasporic traditions like Santeria in Cuba and Candomblé in Brazil, Oya continues to be venerated under various names, her winds still called upon in moments of need and change. Enslaved Africans carried her across oceans, and she traveled with them, becoming a symbol of resistance, of spirit unbroken. Her storm was the breath that kept their identities alive through chains and whips. Even today, when movements rise against oppression, when crowds march and demand truth, when systems begin to tremble, the spirit of Oya can be felt in the air. She is the wind behind revolutions. But Oya is not only about public rebellion. She is deeply personal. She arrives in breakups, breakdowns, breakthroughs. In the sudden clarity after confusion, in the storm that forces you to let go. She is there in the job lost, the relationship ended, the identity shed, and in what comes next. She is the scream you didn't know you needed to release, the gust that slams the door you refused to close, the fresh air that rushes in afterward, sharp and cold and bracing. That is Oya. Her symbols: whirling winds, lightning, a horse's tail whip, a woman in motion, speak to her essence. She does not stay still, she cannot be held, and she does not wait for permission. Yet despite her fierceness, there is deep wisdom in her path. She reminds us that nothing lives without movement, that every soul must change to remain alive, that the only constant is wind. In a world clinging to false order and stagnant truths, Oya remains a force too powerful to ignore. She is not the calm, she is not the storm, she is both. And if you feel something rising in your life, something pulling at your edges, unsettling your ground, it may be her, calling you, challenging you, preparing you. Because Oya doesn't just pass through, she transforms. She emerges from the depths, not with thunder or fire, but with allure. Silent, radiant, hypnotic. She is Mami Wata, the spirit of water worshipped across West and Central Africa, her legend carried through waves, whispers, and worship. To behold her is to be caught between fascination and fear. She is the water's mystery made flesh, goddess, spirit, enchantress, protector, destroyer. In the fluid world of rivers and seas, where clarity and deception dance side by side, Mami Wata reigns as queen. Her name, a melodic echo of Mother of Water, is spoken in awe, not just in villages, but in dreams, in longing, and in trembling gratitude. Mami Wata is beauty beyond comprehension. In carvings, paintings, and visions, she often appears with long, flowing hair, glistening skin, and serpent companions, draped around her like living jewels. Her appearance shifts. Sometimes she is dark-skinned, regal, eyes burning with wisdom, other times pale, foreign-looking, a siren with impossible allure. This duality is no accident. Mami Wata contains multitudes. She is the water's surface and its shadowy depths. She is calm and storm. She is wealth and ruin. Her beauty is not ornamental. It is a force. It is how she heals, how she seduces, and how she curses. As a spirit of oceans and rivers, Mami Wata governs life itself. Water is survival. It nourishes, cleanses, renews. To honor Mami Wata is to respect the very essence of existence. Yet her waters are not always gentle. Just as easily as she can heal, she can drown. She is unpredictable because water itself is never still. She reflects the emotional, the spiritual, the erotic. Those who encounter her, whether in trance or accident, speak of being pulled into a realm that feels both familiar and otherworldly, a place where time suspends and truth is fluid. She is a goddess of gifts. Mami Wata brings wealth, especially of the sudden, mysterious kind. Many who worship her do so for financial blessing, success, fertility, or spiritual power. But her blessings are not free. They come with rules. Devotees often make vows of loyalty or chastity. They must honor her through ritual baths, offerings of perfume, mirrors, jewelry, and sometimes the rarest of tributes, silence. If these vows are broken, Mami Wata's wrath is swift. Her favor turns cold. Illness, madness, or ruin may follow, because while she seduces, she does not tolerate betrayal. Temples dedicated to Mami Wata are often modest, yet filled with vivid beauty. Red and white fabrics, combs, snakes carved in wood or stone. Priests and dreams filled with oceans and mirrors, and a constant tug from the spirit world. Her presence expands beyond Africa. Through the Atlantic slave trade, Mami Wata crossed oceans alongside her people, becoming a foundational figure in Caribbean and southern U.S. spiritual systems. In Haitian voodoo, New Orleans voodoo, and Brazilian Umbanda, echoes of Mami Wata shimmer in the forms of La Sirene, Yamaya, and other sea goddesses. She adapts and survives, just as water does, taking the shape of whatever container she enters. Her essence remains, the sacred feminine of wave and whirlpool, of nurture and danger. Perhaps what makes Mami Wata so unforgettable is her embodiment of contradiction. She is the divine balance of power and vulnerability, of seduction and sovereignty. She does not fit into a single moral box. She blesses the faithful and tempts the curious. She rewards with abundance and punishes with absence. She reflects the truths we carry in our own depths, that love can heal or hurt, that desire can save or destroy. Her stories are not warnings, they are mirrors. To feel Mami Wata is to remember that water is not neutral. It remembers, it reflects, it can cradle you or crush you. The river that brings life to your village is the same river that can flood it away. Mami Wata is the sacred reminder that no force of nature is ever truly tame. That mystery is not to be solved, but honored. That beauty can be a doorway to transformation. In today's world, where the spiritual is often stripped down to symbols and stripped of wonder, Mami Wata rises as a challenge. To see her is to ask yourself, what are you drawn to that you do not understand? What are you willing to surrender for power, for healing, for intimacy with the unknown? She is not just a goddess. She is a current, a song, a question with no simple answer. Mami Wata calls from the deep, and only those who listen with their whole being can truly hear her. The elements are not just forces of nature. They are the oldest laws of balance. Before the first crown, before the first written law, there was fire to purify, earth to hold, wind to transform, and water to bless. These were the first teachers, the first judges. And through gods like Mphambe, Naiyiri, Oya, and Mami Wata, the elements became personal. They became spirit. They became guardians. In every storm that shakes the sky, in every flood that claims what was taken for granted, in every quake that reminds us nothing is ever fully secure, the elements still speak. And they speak in a language older than empire, deeper than fear. These are not myths, they are mirrors. Each story we've shared reflects something alive in us today. Fire still burns away what no longer serves. Earth still grounds us when we drift. Wind still forces change when we resist it. And water still heals, seduces, and remembers. These deities are not relics of forgotten cultures. They are echoes of divine truth, waiting to be heard again. So I speak a blessing over you now, in the name of the elements that have always watched. May Mphambe's fire burn through every falsehood in your path, and ignite clarity where there was confusion. May Naiyiri's earth hold you steady, feed your roots, and protect the bones of those you love. May Oya's wind blow through your soul, clearing the dust of fear and calling you boldly into transformation. And may Mami Wata's waters rise in your life, to cleanse, to overflow with abundance, and to whisper every secret your spirit is ready to receive. If you feel the winds of change, the pull of deep water, the cracking of old ground beneath you. Share this story with your kin, your circle, your people, who still feel the pulse of something greater. Comment below. Which of these elemental gods speaks to you? Which one lives in your spirit, in your struggle, in your power? And subscribe to History Store, not just to follow, but to protect this flame, this river, this memory we are reviving together. Thank you for spending your time, your energy, and your heart with us. Your presence is sacred. May the elements walk with you, and may the gods never forget your name.